there are rumors going on that Google might not be allowing sideloading of apps from next year onwards. And I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but it is concerning. Now, first of all, what is sideloading of apps? Well, sideloading of apps is basically downloading apps that aren't on the Play Store from a web browser or something. Now, the reason some of these apps aren't on the Play Store is probably because it's not secure enough, or they couldn't get into the Play Store for other various reasons. But you can download them from a web browser. And to be honest, a lot of Android users do use apps like this from time to time for different uses. And if Google ends up getting rid of that, I feel like it's gonna be a big problem, especially because of iOS. Now, iOS, Apple software is the only real competition that Google has for Android, in terms of an alternative operating system. And one of the main things that people preferred using Android over iOS was the customization. I mean, iOS didn't have a lot of customization earlier on, but even they're catching up to it now. They're going to reach a point. I feel like they're going to reach a point where Google and Android and iOS are going to be similar in terms of customization, and people aren't going to care that much about that. Now, the other thing that Android had that iOS didn't was the ability to sideload apps. You could sideload apps that weren't on the Play Store, but you couldn't sideload apps that weren't on the App Store in iOS. And that was a huge deal for a lot of people. And if Google ends up getting rid of that, then what's the difference between iOS and Android? I mean, if the customization and the features are similar enough, people aren't going to care about the operating system. They're just going to go for the brand. And when it comes to branding, well, Apple's got everyone beat, let's face it. And if they get rid of sideloading and the customization is the same, it's going to be a huge hit for Android. A serious hit. And it is a big deal, honestly. A lot of people do sideload a lot of apps. Now, the problem with sideloading these apps are there are risks of security and all that, but a lot of people are willing to do it. They're willing to take the risk to get the feature and all that. And that's their choice. And if you get rid of that choice, people aren't going to be happy about it, but more importantly, they won't have any other reason to not pick the competition instead, which is iOS and Apple. And it could honestly get even worse than that. What if iOS somehow decides to allow sideloading? Imagine if Google ends up not allowing sideloading, and after that, iOS opens up sideloading, then Android's gonna lose a lot of customers just because of that. I mean, think about it. That would honestly make iOS even better than Android. And you have the branding and it's an iPhone and all that stuff. And yeah, it's a huge risk for Google to do this. And even though there are actual security concerns, if people are willing to take it, I think Google should just let them do what they want to do and let them take the risk. I mean, these are people's phones that they buy. Let them do what they want with it. So yeah, sideloading, I don't think it's honestly going to happen. I think it's too much of a risk for Google to do this. And I'm guessing that it won't happen unless some government forces them to do it, and to operate in that country and all. But I don't see any government doing that. And honestly, I heard stuff about iOS allowing sideloading in Europe. Now I don't know if that happened yet or not. I need to look into that. But if it did, then I'm guessing that if it goes really well and improves sales there, then iOS will allow sideloading everywhere. And if that's the case, then Google's gonna be in huge trouble. And the only thing they have to compete with Apple is the fact that the Android phones are affordable at cheaper prices, and then Apple just could end up bringing out a cheaper iPhone or something. I don't think they will do, but they could just end up bringing a cheaper iPhone and they could completely destroy the Android market at that point. Because let's face it, iOS and iPhones, there's a lot of useful features when two people are using iPhones to communicate with each other. It's just the facts. And yeah, I don't think Google's gonna do it, but if it does, it could be a monumental mistake for them. So let's wait and see what happens with this, I guess. But yeah, I'm not too worried about it, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens with this.